Hello, Revs fans. I'm Jeff Lemieux. So excited to be here today with the man of the hour, the ninth head coach in New England Revolution history, Caleb Porter. Caleb, welcome. How you settling in?
Good. It's cold, but I'm a Midwest guy, so that's not a huge change. Got here yesterday.
Nice.
Been working from afar remotely, but it's good to be in the office and be in the stadium where hopefully we're going to win a lot of games.
Have you been welcomed appropriately? I feel like New Englanders get a reputation for being a little brash, but we're good to our own.
Yeah, that's funny. I've heard that as well, but I don't sense that at all, actually. I think, for me, it's evident that people are good people. Mm-hmm. Through the interview process, I felt that immediately, that connection and that alignment, and it's like anything. When you win, everybody's happy, and if you lose, it doesn't matter where you live, everybody's not happy. Yeah. So
we wanted to start off a little bit more casual today, maybe a little bit lighter. I know you've already done several interviews since hiring.
A beer.
We're here hanging out, having a beer. I think that's a nice casual way to get things started. We're in the Celebration Beer Hall, which I think is fitting because obviously we hope to be doing a lot of celebrating with you at the helm. And this is one of several areas where Revs fans are going to be able to come cheer on this team as you take over for the 2024 season. We've got some Michelob Ultras in front of us to help ease us into the conversation because we're athletes, obviously.
Lots of carbs.
I'm interested to know because I've worked with a lot of different coaches during my time with the Revs, and some coaches in training, we haven't had a chance to see you in a training session yet. Right. Some are very hands-off. Some like to actually get in the mix, get the cleats on, get in the middle of it. I know you had several knee injuries as a player. I know how that limits you, but how are you in terms of getting in the action and training?
Yeah, no, I'm very hands-on and extremely intense, but I'm not going to be playing, When I stopped playing, I stopped playing, and when I started coaching, with my knees, I had no interest to play. I'd look bad. It would be a bad example for the players if I played at this stage. But no, I'm very hands-on in training. I like to get in, be vocal, run the sessions, make points, and very passionate person. But that hour and a half that you have in terms of training, those 90 minutes every day, is the most important thing you can do as a coach to impact the players.
Did you play any other sports growing up?
I did. I kind of came from a typical American family. My dad was football, basketball, baseball. So I did all those growing up. My dad never played soccer. And then I realized quickly that I was really good at soccer and I really liked it the best. So I stopped doing all the other sports when I hit high school. And my dad, wanted me to do the other sports. But it's funny, he watches soccer more than anything. He loves it.
Well, Caleb, one of the reasons I'm so thankful you took the time to sit down and have a beer with us today is because I know you're a busy man. A lot of work to do, and the season's coming up quick. Preseason starts next weekend. Team's on the road to Florida January 21st, which is going to lead straight into the first two games of the season in Champions Cup and then that regular season opener at DC United. So it's going to come up quick, and there's a lot to do. And I know when you got hired, you said one of the first things you wanted to do was make those personal connections with each and every player on the roster before you even came into market. And I know you talked about that a little bit in your press conference today, but why was it important for you to make those individual connections with each player, and how productive do you feel like those conversations were as you now have those individual relationships before you even get on the field on day one?
Yeah, the greatest gift and strength and art of a coach is the relationship building, the development, the connection with the players. I can't develop these guys. I can't get the most out of these guys unless I know them inside and out. And I believe in, the management and the psychology of winning. That's hugely important. And I love the energy every day, working with the players. So calling them, talking to them, getting to know them a bit. I got around to most every guy. A few of them would text, because you know how they are these days. You call them and they text you back.
Yeah, they're not answering the phone.
So, but I like to talk. I like to bring them in my office. For me, the modern coach, you need to be hands-on, and you need to be with the players, and you need to listen to them. You know, you need to tell them what you want, but you also need to listen to them.
I know a lot of coaches in a lot of sports use the term family. They might use it kind of loosely, but I've listened to some interviews with you, and you've talked a lot about family, and that seems like a pretty important tenet of what you try to build in an organization. It doesn't seem like you use that term family loosely.
No, I try to create a culture in the locker room where we're a family. And number one dysfunction of any team is absence of trust. And so we try to create, like in your family, a genuine trust where we're all in it together. And there'll be times we disagree, because that's the number two dysfunction, is lack of disagreement. And you can't disagree unless you trust each other. So that's easier said than done, but developing that genuine trust, that genuine relationship, connection is, I think, the foundation of, what I try to build with my guys. And just being honest, address the truth, be honest with each other. And we're all in this together. It's a hard job. And yes, these guys make a lot of money, and that's part of it. There's pressure to win, to perform, but we need to enjoy it, and we need to enjoy being together and have a spirit and a chemistry with our work. Because winning a trophy is really tough, and it's really hard. But the two teams I had in MLS that won it, those guys were tight. They'd die for each other, and I had their backs. They had my back. They had each other's backs, and I think that shows. That's the 5 to 10%, I think, margins that you need to maximize in this league, because every team's good.
Yeah. Is Andrew Farrell one of the guys you were able to connect with on the phone?
Yeah, good dude. Yep. Yeah, good guy. Talker.
You two do have a little bit of history, which I'm sure you know about. The 2010 NCAA National Championship.
Yep.
You're the head coach at Akron.
Yep.
Andrew Farrell was playing for Louisville.
Yep.
Akron won that national
We
championship
talked about
1-0
it.
on a goal by former Revolution
Yes.
player, Revolution legend Scott Caldwell. So
Yeah.
you have hashed that out, because Scotty and Andrew became like best friends on the Revs. So you've worked it out?
Yeah, we talked about that game. Yeah. I think he's hoping that, I help him win a trophy to make up for that. But yeah, Scotty Caldwell, one of the nicest guys in the world.
Yeah.
Great player. His mom sends me a handwritten Christmas card every year. Like, just good people live in Braintree.
Yep.
Just down the road. But
A little bit more of a serious question about Andrew Farrell, because this is a guy who, teammates refer to as Mr. Revolution. He's the all-time appearance leader. No one has put on a Revolution jersey more than Andrew Farrell in the history of this club. He feels like a guy, too, who's sort of a bridge between a lot of guys in the locker room. He's a bridge between veteran guys and younger guys, between some of the foreign players and American players, because he grew up in Peru, but he's American. He speaks English and Spanish. Especially as a new coach coming in to a new group of players, how important is a relationship with that kind of guy who it feels like can sort of be that bridge between you and the players as well?
yeah, I think relationships with every player is important, but a guy that's been in the trenches here, that has given so much to the club, has been a part of successful teams, that's paid his dues, right? And for me, he's got a charisma, you could tell, and he's valuable, versatile. He's gonna have to at times help us a little bit at right back, because we've got buyout. Been a great center back as well. So I think every player is important, but a player like him, I always respect the past.
Yeah.
We need to look forward to the future, and can we be better? But you can't overlook the past and this club has a storied past, a storied tradition. That was attractive to me. From the outside, coming in, there's a lot of respect for this club.
Yeah, I did want to ask about that, because it is, when you think about Major League Soccer, it's a young league in context of the world game, less than 30 years old, but in the Revs context to MLS, this is an MLS original club, and it does have a lot of history, and that history means a lot to a lot of people. I'll be honest, myself included, as someone who grew up in Massachusetts as a Revolution fan, and I had heard you say that you want to keep that focus on the future and what this club needs to do moving forward to win a championship always, but you do want to honor the past. And I'm wondering what that looks like for you as a head coach, being someone who obviously focuses on the future, but does recognize the history of the club and wants to honor that past.
Yeah, I think part of what makes clubs like the New England Revolution special is there is a past history. There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of memories. There's trophies. There's heartbreak. There's success. That just adds to the lore of the club. And I think it's important, as a coach and as a player, when we come in, that we honor that we're aware of it, that we pay respect to it. We're stewards of the club. I hope I'm here a long time, but you just never know, right? And so my thing in taking over these jobs is, can I add to the story? Can I add to the tradition? And can I help the players leave a legacy? And how you do that is put a trophy in the trophy case. Yeah. You put a star on the badge because it never goes away. Yeah. So, in Portland, it's a new club, obviously. Was an expansion club, so they had a lot of tradition, USL, NASL, but, they never won an MLS Cup. But with Columbus, they had won an MLS Cup, and we talked a lot about that team that had won the MLS Cup. I think it was 2006. And those characters, those players who are still celebrated. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I talked a lot with the current players about how they could be legends, eventually, and celebrated like Frankie Hayduck, and Scilotto, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I think that's a big motivation for players and coaches is to do something that's never been done, or do something that's, hasn't been done often. In this case, do something that's never been done.
Yeah, I was gonna save it for the end as a final question, but it seems like it makes sense now when you talk about that opportunity to leave a legacy. And in the history of this club, there are lots of players, there are lots of coaches who've left legacies, but as of this moment, no one has that legacy of being the first one to lift an MLS Cup trophy in a Revolution jersey or coaching a Revolution team. So how motivating of a factor is that for you, knowing obviously the work that needs to go in to get to that place, but knowing that that's sort of out there as this potential opportunity to put your name in the record books as what would be the first coach to lead an MLS original club to an MLS Cup trophy?
Yeah, that's hugely motivating. And it's an honor to be the head coach here, to carry that responsibility. And yeah, I'd be lying if I told you that wasn't a big factor in me taking the job, is that it's never been done. At Akron, they had never won a national championship. Nobody in the MAC conference had ever won a national championship. So it was hugely motivating, and no one thought we could do it. People laughed at actually the thought that we could do it. When I talked about that in Portland, when I took over, they just want to make the playoffs. And I made the playoffs in 2 years, and then by the end when I left, we won the Western Conference, and it wasn't good enough. That's a great testament to how my staff and I raised the bar. This team was a Supporter Shield winners a couple years ago. With the most points in the history of the league, and last year 55 points, the fourth most in the history of the club, and it was a down year. Yeah. So the expectations are high, but you want that. What do you want as a coach? You want to go into a club where the expectations are low, where the team, just wants to make the playoffs. That's just not my personality. My personality is to go in and to try to win it all. And I believe you have to talk about it, and you have to set the vision. Otherwise, you don't do it. So I'm motivated by it. Sometimes when you say it, people go, "Oh, it's just that easy." No, it's really hard. But you know what? You got to think about it and talk about it. And we've got a long process to get there. And there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be, tough times. But that's a part of actually how you get there. And I'm confident that we'll get there eventually.
Let's talk about that process, because it really begins in earnest next weekend when the players report for preseason. And I'm interested to know how you sort of approach a first preseason, because you've mentioned this is going to be your 10th season coaching in Major League Soccer. You've had teams in that first preseason. You've had teams in the third, fourth, fifth preseason. So how different does sort of a first preseason look when it's a new coach and a new group as opposed to, say, a third or fourth preseason with a group?
Yeah, I think you got to read the room. You got to know what your group is like, where are they at in their maturation, and where are they at in terms of the cycle. And this is a team that's mature. It's a team that's been together. There aren't a lot of new pieces. I'm new, a couple of my staff, and a couple players. That's it. So the biggest thing is making sure they get to know you and you get to know them, and being very clear with that, but being simple. Not complicating it. With this team, they need things, and I've identified areas that I think I can help them improve. Maybe it's 15%. They don't need to improve 70%, and so there's an art to that. Improving without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, type of thing. So I think I'll be very simple, but I have a way of working, and yet I'll read the room. I'll read the group.
And you mentioned you have a pretty good sense of sort of where this team is. You know the roster, strengths and weaknesses of the group, individual players. With that said, there'll be a learning process for you during preseason, for the players as well during preseason. So I'm curious to know, when you come in on day one, obviously you bring with you philosophies, ideas of how you want to play, tactical ideas, perhaps formation ideas. How much does that sort of blend together with what you learn through preseason? How sort of adaptable do you have to be with some of those ideas once you actually get on the field and see, okay, this is what we've got and this is what we need to do?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you have a way of working and you have a methodology or a game model that works too, right? Yeah. Coaches can have ideas, but if they don't work, players don't follow them, they don't buy into them. But I have a way of working, it's clear. But also I do adapt to every situation, whether it's, we have a different profile maybe in the number 9, for instance, or some pieces that might change the formation or might change just a little bit how we go about the philosophy that I have. So for instance, Portland and Columbus, those championship teams are similar, but they were different. There's some differences, and I think this team will be similar but different. But I think by and large the players and the roster fit, my vision, and so that was a big factor, because you don't want to come in and have to blow up a successful team. Yeah. And you could find coaches that taken this job that actually wanted to change too much, which wouldn't be a good thing, because this team is ripe for success right now.
Yeah. I know too, a lot has been written about your adaptability, your ability to look at whether it's an in-game situation, the 65th minute, and say, look, this isn't working, here's what we need to change in this particular game, or to look at a particular opponent ahead of time and say, look, here are some things that we need to tweak to deal with this particular opponent. But then there's also the idea of having an identity and a philosophy, and I think people can sort of feel like those are opposite things and that they exist separately, but they don't exist separately. So how do you see those two things kind of merging together, that ability to adapt when you need to, but while never losing that identity?
Yeah, great question. I've done this a long time. I'm 48, but I've done it a long time. So I've learned what works and doesn't work. And I think when I started, I was very, I would say I was very stubborn on the way I wanted to play. And I learned quickly that, that's good. It's good because you have a vision. It's very clear. But also it's not good because sometimes it's predictable. And sometimes also it might not work with that group or versus that opponent. And I think it's very difficult in our league to just say, yeah, we're doing this every game and it's just going to work. It's kind of arrogant in some ways. And I would say it's naive, to think that you're going to do that exact same thing every single game and you're just going to be better than every team, because every team has a good coach and they have good players. And by the way, they're trying to do something too. So what I try to do is do what I want to do, focus on my strengths and my team's strengths and highlight those and play in an aggressive way and yes, say this is who we are and we're not changing this. But then also going, the reality is this game, this team, this situation, maybe we need to change 10% or 15%. Maybe we need to tweak this formation, or maybe we need to press a little differently this game because of this opponent, or play out differently because of this opponent, or rotate our squad because of injuries or compacted windows. So being stubborn on what you want to do, but also being street smart. And the worst thing you can be as a coach is naive.
Yeah.
Because it's the most important thing is not the poetry, it's winning. And so I've died in beauty some, and I've gone the other way, and I've died in ugly some, So, can you win in a way that you feel is your way?
You mentioned some of the lessons you've learned over the course of what is a long coaching career, like you mentioned, even though you're only 48. You got your first assistant coaching gig at Indiana when you were 24.
Yeah.
First head coaching gig at Akron when you were 30. So you've been doing this for a while, and I'm wondering, when you think back to that coach who got that first assistant coaching gig at 24 years old, sort of the biggest lessons you learned in what you thought coaching was at the time and what you thought coaching was going to be to what coaching actually is now that you have 20, 25 years experience.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I feel fortunate because I played for my mentor, Jerry Yeagley, who's the all-time winningest coach in college soccer history. No one is even close. 32 years and 19 Final Fours and 10 national championship games and 5 championships. So I played for him. So I saw that side. I know how I felt when he coached me, and then I was on the other side. And now I'm in the office, and now I'm behind the curtain with him to be able to now see there's so much more. I thought it was easy, just, these guys, they go to training and they do nothing. So much work in the prep. There's so much work and detail in the management of players and the staff, and building really a culture of excellence, which I believe in building at the pro level. Build a culture of excellence, manage that performance environment. Ultimately, can I support the players in every detail? The daily details determine the difference for me in helping them develop and be the best that they can be. So I learned that quickly, and it's a lot more work. You're in the office a lot longer, I used to think the coaches run a session and go home.
Yeah.
I'm in the office all day.
So not quite so simple as just stick the best 11 out every weekend then, I guess.
Yeah, and even for supporters, there's so much more that goes into it. A lot of times, the fans, if they're just plucking the lineup, they think same team, same subs, nothing's changed. But a lot has changed, even though the lineup might, be the same. You got to watch, the way we, like I said, press, the way we play out, the rotations and the shapes that we use, even though it says whatever, 4-3-3 or 3-5-2 or 2-3-1, the actual shapes are changing, the structures are changing, and it's a fluid game. If it was as easy as just putting the magnets on the board and saying, go play, guys, then anybody can do it. But it's a tough sport because you can't call set plays like football. I wish sometimes I could stop it, let's call set play. But you almost have to create an offense that's constantly moving and a defense that's constantly moving over 45 minutes to where they're calling plays over and over and over again.
And I'm sure no one knows better than you that winning in MLS looks different than winning in college, than looks different than winning on the international stage, than looks different winning in Europe. You've won everywhere you've gone. You've won 2 MLS Cup titles with Portland and Columbus. In winning in MLS, what have you learned about what it takes to win an MLS Cup title specifically?
Yeah, it takes talent. But you don't have to have more talent than everybody. But it takes enough talent. Second thing is how that fits together. So those pieces and the chemistry and the unity in the locker room. So you put those two together. If you have a talented enough team, and you can, put the group together in a way where there's a cohesiveness and a spirit and an energy and a vision. I like leaders, winners, fighters, serial winners. And this team has a lot of good guys that like to win, and sometimes that takes years to get the guys out that aren't like that and to get guys in that are like that. The club has done a good job of bringing in the right types of guys. But for me, that's the difference, game model. Everybody has a good game model. I think mine's good, Somebody else thinks theirs is better. Is that the difference? I think the key is the good coaches have a game model. But the art is it's hard. It's intangible. Why do some coaches win a trophy and some don't? I don't know the answer. To some extent, it's just how you get your players to come together and to believe. And I think a lot of it's psychology, leadership.
I read a quote too that when your playing career ended prematurely, unfortunately because of knee injuries at just about 24 years old, that you initially struggled being away from the game and kind of that loss of being away from the game. And I'm interested because now in your coaching career, there have been 2 periods between Portland and Columbus and between Columbus and New England where you did have a year where you were actually out of the game and sort of stepped away and stepped back a little bit. So what did those years look like for you? What did this past year look like for you sort of being away from the game? And how does that actually end up being beneficial for you to sort of take that perspective to step back a little bit?
Yeah. So I give a lot of energy to these jobs. It's my whole life. And I've sacrificed everything for these jobs. I picked the job carefully. I picked the job because I think it will fit, me. I pick it for the story. And I pick it because I'm motivated to be successful. I'm obsessed to win, and I give everything I have. I can tell you that. I gave everything I have to Portland until I had nothing left. I gave everything I had to Columbus towards winning those trophies. And sometimes you don't have anything left to give, and you need a break. You need a break. And so getting the opportunity to have a break, recharge, between jobs, you see that a lot in Europe. A lot of coaches do that, and I think it helps them because you do have to give so much. It's really consuming. This year, I had cancer. I had prostate cancer this year. So that was life-changing. I'm completely good, obviously recovered.
Fantastic to hear.
Cancer-free. But, that was something tough to go through. That made me stronger, made me tougher. It made me think about, why I do this. It made me appreciate everything. So I think I got better because of that. Adversity, neither shapes you or breaks you, and it's always shaped me.
Well, that's certainly adversity. And first of all, obviously thrilled to hear that you are cancer-free and healthy. What did you miss most about it while you were away?
I miss the locker room. I miss being around the guys. I miss talking to them. I miss the road trips. I miss structure. I'm a creature of habit. I miss the game. In general, it makes you happy. Being around your staff, being around the players. It gives you energy. And so, that's what you miss the most.
I appreciate so much that you've taken the time to sit down with us. I'm going to finish up with some more a little more rapid fire, getting to know you questions a little bit. Maybe a few that are still soccer specific, a few that aren't soccer specific. Starting, we've talked so much about how passionate you are about this game and how you went from your playing career into your coaching career. It's been pretty much your entire life. Have you ever thought at all about if soccer hadn't been the path for you, what you might have found yourself doing in life if you weren't involved in soccer 100% of the time?
I've never thought about that until this year.
Yeah.
Because, what I went through, and obviously you're out of a job and you hope you get another job, but you just don't know. And my wife and I would go on walks every day and we'd talk about, what I was going to do. And she had a million ideas, and I didn't like any of them. And I kept going back to, I'm a coach. I like to coach. That's what I'm good at. And I'm not good at much else, to be honest with you. I'm good at coaching. And, I think that's my calling. It's not a career, it's a calling for me. It's what I was meant to do. So I'm really fortunate to be doing it again.
You wouldn't have been an incredible like concert pianist or something that we don't know about, no?
Oh, again, my wife will tell you I'm worthless at everything but soccer.
I feel like a lot of coaches get asked, what coaches shaped you? What coaches did you idolize? But I'm wondering, as a player, when you were growing up, which players did you idolize, and how did they potentially maybe shape who you became as a player and as a coach?
Yeah, I think you try to learn from everybody, right? So every coach I've seen or studied, I learn from. Every player, you learn a little something. You learn what works and what doesn't work. I try to not make I've made a lot of mistakes, but I try to not make the same mistakes twice. So I'm a very reflective person. I'll listen and learn, and I like to get to know people, and I'm a learner, but I also think I'm strong too, where I learn when to make a decision as well, and so I think a lot of people would think I'm different than I am because of maybe my public persona, but I think at the root of it, I'm a normal guy that has a gift of putting teams together and getting them to win trophies.
Did you have a club that you supported growing up, or a club that maybe you still support now?
I support managers.
Okay.
So yeah, I like managers. I used to always like Pep Guardiola.
Yeah. He's all right.
Till he didn't shake my hand after the MLS, after the All-Star game.
I won't ask about that one. We'll get it. That'll be a whole other show that we'll do.
But no, I study coaches. I like coaches. Yeah, it doesn't. I've gotten into this year weirdly the NFL.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like a good escape for me just to get into the NFL and watching. It's very interesting, the offenses, that are being run right now. I found it to be a really interesting sport.
So can you even watch it at all as a fan, or are you watching it and you're looking for coaching philosophies and all that type of stuff?
No, I watch it as a fan. That's probably why I like watching it.
Yeah.
Because I watch obviously a lot of soccer too.
Yeah.
But when I watch the soccer, I feel like I'm working.
Yeah.
When I watch the NFL games, I feel like I'm relaxing, and it's kind of different.
Yeah.
It's so different. Like, you couldn't have two more different sports.
Yeah, true.
Honestly. So.
Well, I'm interested to know the answer to these kind of three quick fire answers, then, because all we've talked about so far is pretty much soccer. What's the best concert you've ever attended?
I'm a big Dave Matthews guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Band action?
I saw Dave Matthews at the Gorge.
Okay.
In Washington. Beautiful venue.
Nice.
So I've always been, since college, I've loved Dave Matthews. But I like Chris Stapleton as well. I like country music.
Okay.
Which I never liked, growing up, but I love country music now. I like a little bit of everything. I'm bipolar on music.
I was gonna say favorite, favorite movie. You have a favorite movie?
I always like the, the rah-rah movies.
Okay.
Like Gladiator.
Okay.
Patriot.
Okay.
Those type of movies that make you pumped up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like movies. Movies are a good escape for me. It's easier to watch a movie than read for me.
Same. Especially like when we're on a plane, and you're like, I bring a book with me just to have it.
It's like work.
Because you feel smarter. You bring the book in your bag, but I'm watching movies on the plane.
Yeah, I have 20 books that I started and never finished.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. You do a lot of travel. What's the go-to like plane snack for you?
I like pretzels.
Okay.
I'm more of a salty guy. Yeah.
You know what go really good with pretzels?
Yeah, beer.
Nice, cool Michelob Ultra.
Yeah. At 11 o'clock.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. No one knows what time it is. People could be watching this at any time. Look, finally, Caleb, again, really appreciate you taking the time. We've talked about this club and its history and players and your coaching staff, all of these different types of things. Well, the one thing we haven't talked as much about, really the lifeblood of any team sport is the supporters.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to finish by asking about, I know you mentioned in your press conference how you've seen sort of this groundswell of support building up over the course of the past couple of years. How much are you looking forward to sort of making those connections with the supporters and then continuing to just sort of build that relationship over the course of your time here?
Yeah, the supporters are the soul of any club, and I think when you have a club like the New England Revolution that's been around, since day one in MLS, those, you talk about loyal, diehard supporters. There's no supporters that are more loyal, that again have been through everything, right? Been through the ups, been through the downs, been through 5 second place finishes, which is like 5 championships. They've been in the final 5 times. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That means they've been successful. But I want to punch through and finally win one for them. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to know them. I know I'm scheduled to go out and meet them at some point and get to know the characters. And I did that in Portland, did that in Columbus, and that connection's really important. It's important that the players, and the coaches, they honor those fans, and yeah, we work for them.
Okay, thanks
Bring
so much.
the fight.
Bring the fight, absolutely. Thank you.
That's, by the way, I love that mantra.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic.
That's
It's everywhere.
what
We got
I'll
it plastered everywhere.
I'll bring the fight. That's
All right.
for sure.
You bring the fight. We'll bring the Michelob Ultra.
All right.
Caleb, thank you so much for taking the time. Thanks for great conversation. We're looking forward to everything to come over the coming years, and now get to work.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Caleb.